They say every generation has those TV moments they never forget. The scenes that made them cry, made them look away, made them realize their favorite show just went somewhere darker than they expected. For everyone who grew up watching Stranger Things, we have a collection of memories that still hurt years later. Barb disappearing into that pool, Bob being torn apart by demodogs, Eddie bleeding out in the Upside Down. These weren't just shocking plot twists. They were genuine trauma delivered through a show about kids riding bikes and fighting monsters. And with Season 5 dropping on November 26th, we need to talk about the darkest moments that brought us here. Because the final season is going to make all of this pain matter. Let's start with the moment that set the tone for everything. Barb's death in Season 1. We all remember Barb, Nancy's best friend, the responsible one, the girl who just wanted to look out for her friend at Steve Harrington's party. She sat alone by the pool, waiting for Nancy, and then the Demogorgon took her. Just like that. No dramatic fight scene, no last words, just gone. What made it worse was how long it took anyone to even realize she was missing. Nancy was too caught up with Steve. Barb's parents were dismissed as paranoid, and by the time anyone started looking for her, Barb was already dead in the Upside Down, her body rotting in that hellish dimension. The cruelty of Barb's death wasn't just that she died, it was that she died alone, forgotten, while everyone else moved on with their lives. Her parents spent their savings searching for her. Nancy carried guilt for years, and the show made us sit with that injustice. Barb deserved better. She deserved to be mourned properly, to be remembered as more than just a meme about being forgotten. Her death taught us that Stranger Things wasn't going to play it safe, that anyone could die, and that sometimes the innocent people suffer the most. Then there's Will's time in the Upside Down in Season 1. We spent the entire first season knowing Will was trapped there, but we didn't really understand what that meant until we saw the flashbacks and heard Joyce and Hopper describe what they found. Will Byers, a 12-year-old kid, spent a week in that nightmare dimension. He was hunted by the Demogorgon. He hid in Castle Byers, his makeshift fort, singing to himself to stay sane. He called out to his mom through the lights, desperately trying to reach her from another dimension. And when they finally pulled him out, he was barely alive, with a tentacle down his throat, being used as a host. Think about what that does to a kid. Will never really recovered. Season 2 showed him having PTSD, feeling the Mind Flayer's presence, struggling to feel normal again. Season 3 and 4 showed him still connected to the Upside Down, still feeling Vecna's presence years later. Will lost his childhood in that week. He became the kid who was possessed, the kid who was different, the kid who couldn't escape the trauma no matter how hard he tried, and the show never let him forget it. Neither did we. Bob Newby's death in Season 2 might be the most heroic and most devastating moment in the entire series. Bob was just a good man. He loved Joyce. He tried to be a father figure to Will and Jonathan. He worked at Radio Shack and told dad jokes. He wasn't equipped for any of this upside-down nightmare. But when the demodogs attacked Hawkins' lab, when everyone was trapped and the power was out, Bob volunteered to go to the breaker room alone. He knew it was dangerous. He knew he might not make it back. And he went anyway, because that's who Bob was. We watched Bob navigate those dark corridors, flipping switches, getting the power back on. We watched him run back toward safety, toward Joyce waiting for him. We watched him smile, relief flooding his face, because he made it. And then the demodog came out of nowhere and tore him apart, right in front of Joyce, right as he thought he was safe. The show gave us hope just to rip it away. Bob died a hero, but that didn't make it hurt any less. Joyce lost the first person she'd loved since Hopper disappeared. The boys lost someone who genuinely cared about them. And we lost proof that good people don't survive in Hawkins. Billy's redemption and death in Season 3 hit differently because we spent 2 seasons hating him. Billy Hargrove was a bully, an abuser, someone who hurt Max and threatened the kids. The show made sure we knew he was dangerous, but Season 3 peeled back the layers and showed us why. Billy was a victim of his father's abuse. He was angry and broken, lashing out because that's all he knew. And when the Mind Flayer possessed him, We saw Billy completely lose himself, becoming a puppet for something evil. The scene at Starcourt Mall, when Eleven reached into Billy's mind and showed him his memories, his mother leaving, the beach in California, the few good moments before his life became hell. That's when we understood him. And that's when Billy fought back. He stood between the Mind Flayer and Eleven, letting that monster tear him apart so the kids could escape. His last words to Max were, "I'm sorry." After everything he'd done, everything he'd put her through, he saved her life and died asking for forgiveness. Max spent the next 2 seasons drowning in guilt because she was relieved when he died, and that relief made her feel like a monster too. Hopper's apparent death at the end of season 3 destroyed us, even though we knew he'd probably come back. We watched Hopper and Joyce shut down the Russian machine, watched him tell her to close the gate, even though he was still on the platform, watched Joyce look at him with tears in her eyes as she turned the keys. The explosion consumed everything. Hopper was gone, and in the aftermath, we watched Joyce pack up her house, watched Eleven read Hopper's letter about how much he loved her, how proud he was of her. That letter was Hopper trying to be a good father, trying to explain why he was so protective, so scared of losing her. Even knowing Hopper survived, even seeing him in the Russian prison in season 4, that moment still hurts. Because Eleven spent months believing her father was dead, she lost her powers and her protector in the same moment. She grieved him. We grieved him. The show made us feel that loss completely before bringing him back, and the trauma of thinking he was dead never really goes away. Max's trauma throughout season 4 might be the darkest sustained storyline in the series. We watched Max fall apart after Billy's death. She isolated herself from her friends, stopped caring about school, wrote letters to everyone saying goodbye because she was ready to die. Max was severely depressed, and the show didn't sugarcoat it. She sat in her room listening to the same song on repeat, pushing away everyone who tried to help, drowning in guilt and grief. And Vecna fed on all of that. He invaded her mind, showed her Billy's corpse, made her relive her worst memories, convinced her that she deserved to die for being relieved when Billy was killed. The scene in the graveyard where Max breaks down and admits everything to the group, how she wanted Billy to die, how she feels like a monster, how she doesn't know how to live with that guilt. That's raw in a way children's shows usually avoid. Max wasn't just sad, she was suicidal. She wrote letters saying goodbye because she genuinely wanted to die. And when running up that hill pulled her back from Vecna's grasp, when she ran through her memories trying to find a reason to live, we felt every second of her desperation. The Hawkins lab massacre in season 4, revealed through Eleven's memories, showed us the single most violent moment in the series. We watched young Eleven, just a child, walk through the lab to find all the other kids dead. Blood everywhere, bodies twisted and broken. Her friends, the only family she knew, murdered by someone they trusted. And then we learned the truth. Henry Creel, the kind orderly, was the one who killed them all. He manipulated Eleven, tried to recruit her, and when she refused, he showed her what he was capable of. That massacre created everything we've seen in Stranger Things. It created the Upside Down when Eleven banished Henry through that gate. It created Vecna. It created the guilt and trauma that Eleven carried for years, believing she was the one who killed those children. The show took us into the mind of a traumatized child and made us experience her worst memory, the moment that broke her and turned her into a weapon. That's darker than monsters. That's real psychological damage. Eddie Munson's death in season 4 broke our hearts because we watched him go from town pariah to genuine hero in just 9 episodes. Eddie was blamed for murders he didn't commit, hunted by an angry mob, living in terror while trying to help the kids stop Vecna. He kept saying he wasn't a hero, that he always ran away when things got scary. And then, when it mattered most, he proved himself wrong. Eddie went back into that swarm of demobats not because he had to, but because Dustin needed more time. He stood his ground with a makeshift spear and a trash can lid shield, blasting Metallica, fighting off monsters from another dimension. We watched Eddie get torn apart. We watched Dustin hold him as he died, telling him he was a hero, that he didn't run away. Eddie's last words were about finally being brave, finally being the person he wanted to be. And then he was gone. His body left in the upside down. His name still ruined in Hawkins because no one knew the truth. His uncle Wayne left mourning a nephew the town believed was a satanic murderer. Eddie died a hero and was remembered as a monster, and that injustice still stings. Max's actual death in the Season 4 finale is the darkest moment in the entire series. We watched Lucas hold Max while Vecna broke her bones one by one. We heard her screams. We watched her eyes go white, then fill with blood as Vecna crushed them. We watched her die in Lucas's arms, her heart stopping, her body going limp. Lucas screaming her name over and over, begging her to stay, watching helplessly as the girl he loved was murdered right in front of him. There was nothing he could do. No music could save her this time. No last-minute rescue. She was just gone. And then 11 brought her back. But Max didn't come back whole. Her mind is gone, trapped somewhere 11 can't reach. Her body is in a coma, breathing but empty. She died long enough for Vecna to open that fourth gate. Her death, even temporary, destroyed Hawkins and started the apocalypse. Max sacrificed herself to stop Vecna, and it didn't work. She's alive but not living, and 11 blames herself for not being strong enough to fully save her. The destruction of Hawkins at the end of Season 4 is the culmination of all this darkness. The massive gates tearing through the town, buildings collapsing, people dying, families fleeing. Hawkins isn't just damaged, it's dying. The upside down is spreading, infecting everything, and there's no stopping it. The place where all these kids grew up, where they rode bikes and played D&D and fell in love, is being consumed by the nightmare dimension. And they can't fix it. All they can do is watch as their home dies around them. What makes it worse is knowing that 11 created this. When she was just a terrified child trying to survive, she opened that first gate and trapped Henry Creel in the upside down. Everything that followed, Will's disappearance, Barb's death, Bob's sacrifice, Billy's redemption, Hopper's imprisonment, Eddie's heroism, Max's fate, all of it traces back to that moment. 11 has to live with the knowledge that her attempt to save herself destroyed countless lives. And now, in Season 5, she has to destroy what she created, kill the monster she made, and somehow save Max from the fate she couldn't prevent. These 10 moments aren't just the darkest in Stranger Things. They're the foundation for everything that's coming in Season 5. Every death, every sacrifice, every moment of trauma has been building toward this final confrontation. Vecna isn't just a monster. He's the embodiment of all the pain and guilt these characters have endured. And when the final season drops on November 26th, all of this darkness is going to matter. Every loss, every sacrifice, every moment of suffering is going to fuel their fight to save Hawkins and finally end this nightmare. The Duffer Brothers have spent 4 seasons making us care about these characters by putting them through hell. They've shown us that good people die, that heroism doesn't guarantee survival, that trauma doesn't just disappear. They've created a world where darkness is real and lasting, where victories come with devastating costs. And now, in the final season, we're going to see if all that pain and sacrifice was worth it. We're going to find out if 11 can save Max, if Hawkins can be restored, if these kids can finally defeat the monster and have a normal life, or if the darkness wins. That's what makes Stranger Things more than just a nostalgia trip. It's a show that respects its audience enough to hurt us, to make us feel real loss, to show us that sometimes the monsters win and the heroes don't make it home. These 10 darkest moments aren't just memorable. They're the reason we're still watching, still caring, still dreading, and anticipating what's coming next. Because we know the Duffer Brothers aren't afraid to break our hearts one more time.